Hello friends, my name is Urvisha and today I give some tips about how to become people magnet. First tips of understanding human nature. If you want to develop people skills, the first thing you have to do is obvious. You have to understand people. You have to know why we do the things we do and how we react in certain circumstances. Understanding people means recognize them for what they are, not for what you want them to be, nor for what you think they are, but for what they really are. So, what are they? Let's get the elephant out of the room right in the beginning. People are above all interested in themselves. You, sorry, no matter who are, who are, who you are, people will always be a thousand times more interested in themselves than in you. No judgment here. I bet that you are also a thousand times more interested in yourself than in other people, right? No worries. That's okay. It's human nature. Really, no judgment here. Just accept this uncomfortable truth. You can be thousand times more interested in yourself than in other people and still do good things for them, but we will get to that later. People's actions are governed by self-interested. Period. As I said before, that in itself is not a bad thing. You don't have to become all apologetic or embarrassed. It's human nature. It has always been this way and it probably always will be. It's something we all have in common. In every human relationship, we counterpart will always think or ask themselves, what in it for me? Remember this question. What in it for me? By the way, you are asking this question in all your interaction too, consciously or subconsciously. Does this all sound too negative? Well, it gets better right now. Once you have accepted this truth, you can use it successful in all your interactions with people. You will see in the following chapters that many successful techniques of dealing with and influencing people stem from this understanding. People are above all interested in themselves and not in you. Thank you. So, this is first tips about how to become people magnet. Let's go the next tips about the most important subject of any conversation. So let's start. Okay. Are you ready to polish your conversation skills? Do you want to know the most important and ultimately the most interesting subject in the world that any person would love to talk about with you? Ready? Okay. Here it is. The most important subject that anyone will want to talk about with you is themselves. I'm sorry if I sound cynically, but it is what it is. Stay with me. Tough. This book will change your relationships and interactions with others. Just stay with me. So, when you talk with people about themselves, they will love you for your wish, choice or subjects. They will be totally fantastic. Fascinated by the subject and show an erroneous interest. Have you ever been to a networking meeting or a social event and had to talk to a person who was just talking about themselves all the time? How did it feel? Were you very attracted to that person? Did you want to spend more time with them? Or were you just waiting for a reason to get the hell out of Judge City? On the other hand, you might have talked to a person with people skill who talk about you the entire time, who asked questions and was interested in you, waiting to know what and how you are doing. How did that feel? Who those two persons would you prefer to be around? When you are talking to a people, forget about I, my and mine for a while and substitute it with a word that will make you a very sought after conversational partner. The word you. What can I do you for you? Is there anything I can help you with? This can be very beneficial for you. How are you today? What are your favorite? When you get from I, my and mine to you and your power and influence will increase by a significant degree. Do you want to know another way of using people's interest in themselves? Here it comes. Get them talking about themselves. Who doesn't love to talk about themselves? If you can show true interest and get people to talk about themselves, they will like you a lot. So ask them lots of questions about themselves. How is everything going, Barnary? How is your family doing? How are you things, etc.? What have you been up to since our last meeting? Stop talking about yourself and start talking about person in front of you or get them to talk about themselves. So these second tips about the most important subject of any conversation. So let's focus in two tips. Thank you. So let's go on third tips. Remember people's names. Our name is the most significant connection to our identity and individuality. It sets us apart and makes us unique among all others. For some, it's even the most important word in the world. Yet most of us don't remember names, many times because we are so busy rehearsing what to say next that we forget the name of the person we had just met. We don't take the time of concern and fix the name in our mind through repetition. No worry, you are not alone. It even happened to me. I am learning as I am writing this book, and at the end of this chapter you will know why remember people's names is so important and what benefits it will bring you. So, why should we remember people's name? First of all, using someone's name when interacting with them is one of the simplest and most profound secrets of success. Why? Because we show peoples that we care about them. We care about them enough to remember their name. It is a sign of courtesy and a way of recognizing them. Don't underestimate this, even if it seems to be so unbelievably basic and simple. When you remember people's names, when when you remember a person's names, the next time you meet them, you will make quite a lasting impression on them, because you will show them they are important enough for you to remember their name. This could be the start of something special, because this person now always positively associates you. You remember their name, you made them feel important and respected. That Dale Dale Carnegie was right. Our name is the sweetest and most important sound in our ears. Every time someone mentions it a conversation, it makes us feel good. It makes us turn toward the speaker, and it gives us the boost and happiness and the feeling of he or she did it again. They mentioned my name again. I must be important. How do you feel when somebody mentions your name? Important, right? Every time you say the names of persons, you change them with a series of positive feelings. And at the end of the conversation, they most probably will feel positively connected to you. The most charismatic people are always described as making the person they are talking to feel like the most important person in the world. How are they doing it? They are using this person name frequently, and they are asking questions. So tell me, John, what about you here? That's very interesting, John. Excuse me for a second, John. I was so my friend Bernary over there. Try using names anyway, in the supermarket or in the shops. Remember the name of the waitress, the cleaning woman, and of the senior executive, and see what it is does. Probably magic. Remember people's name, you will make people feel more important, and most importantly, you build better relationships and trust. So guys, this is third tips about how to become people magnet. It's a remember people's name. Thank you. Hello guys. My next topic is teamwork. The best examples of teamwork, it is ants. So let's start. The following behavior was noticed by a scientist who was making a study of ants. A number of ants were down in a pit where they had killed some flies and other insects for food. The ants began fetching the small bits of these insects up to their until. This was arduous work for them. The sides of the pit were steep, and considering the size of the ants, the loads they were carrying were very heavy. It was as if a group of men were carrying a weight of 200 pounds each and climbing a cliff at the same time. The ants immediately organized the work in this way, while some were carrying up the bits of insects. The others went in front and cleaned clean away any sand or small stone and obstruct the way at some points where it was difficult to get foothold. These other ants would position themselves in such a way that the ants carrying the loads could easily climb over them. Near the top of the pit, however, there was a small part of the way which was completely smooth and step. Here there were no footholds. The ants came up to these points and their progress stopped. It seemed that after all they had been defeated. Of the many ants which tried to climb this part, only one reached the top. This one was immediately met by number of ants from the anthill. To whom it conveyed a message, and now an amazing thing happened. The ants at the top began climbing down into the pit backward, each holding the tail end of another ant in front. In this way, an ant chain was soon formed, which slowly dropped down the steep side. When it reached the ants waiting with their loads, they easily climbed up the chain and came out the top. Such behavior, showing the adaptance of ants, has been noticed and studied by many. Now science has discovered some things about ant life which seem to show that the intelligence of these tiny creatures is very close to human intelligence. Not all scientists concede to this view, but you may look at some of these facts and form your own opinion. These are ants that do farming. You may know that it was a big leap for human progress when men give up being a full-time hunter and look to farming. Seemingly, the umbrella ant was South America have taken the same step in their small way. They are called by that name because they are often seen carrying large pieces of leaf over their heads like umbrella. They take these pieces of leaf in their nests, where they chew the up nicely. Afterwards, they make bed of these chew up leaves. On these beds grows a kind of fungus, which is the food of ants. Thank you. So guys, the next point is focus on other person's strength. So did we already talk about the power of focus? It's one of the most decisive influence of your daily life. Have you ever thought about buying a new car and then saw precisely that type of car everywhere? Have you or your spouse been pregnant and suddenly pregnant woman seemed to be everywhere? Or you had a cast and suddenly everyone seemed to have a cast? When we look for something, we see it everywhere. This is called selective perception. Your focus is essential because science shows that how we experience our life is a matter of interpretation, a matter of choice, and it's up to us where we choose to put our focus. Our focus creates our realities, so we see more of the what we focus on. In one for us, our focus determines our overall perceptions of the world. So, if we focus on other people's strength, what will happen? Yes, exactly. We'll see more of their strengths. Will that improve our personal relationships? You bet it will. This is a magic cure for all relationships. Imagine focusing on the strengths of your spouse instead of nagging. Suddenly, you will see all the great things you fell in love with. You fell in love with in the first place, or your employees. Suddenly, you will be able to see their full potential instead of their weakness and faults. Look at other persons in a new way. What are their unique strengths? What are you most proud of thinking about them? What do you do best? What are their most significant personal and professional accomplishments? What gifts do they have? Make what makes them unique and compelling? Take this a step further. What would happen if we concentrated on our similarities rather than our differences? Exactly. We'd see a lot more of what we have in common. Would that be great for our worlds? You bet. That undoubtedly a much better foundation to come to agreements with than focusing on our differences, right? In all conflicts or negotiations, the most essential ingredients is to have a common goal. If not, they fail. So from now on, focus on similarities. What can be the common goal? Focus on the other person's strengths and see them in an entirely new way. Thank you. So let's guys go to the next topic is C language in web development. First of all, I give an introduction about C language. C is a general purpose high level language that was originally developed by Dennis M. Richard to develop the Unix operating system at Bell Labs. C was originally first implemented on the DEC PDB-11 computer in 1976. In 1978, Brian Cargan and Dennis Richard produced the first publicly available description of C, now known as the K&R standard. The Unix operating system, the C compiler, and essential all Unix application programs have been written in C. C has now become a widely used professional language of various reasons. Easy to learn, structured language, it produces efficient programs, it can handle low level activities, it can be compiled on a variety of computer platforms. Facts about C. C was innovated to write an operating system called Unix. C is a successor C is a successor of B language, which was introduced introduced around the early 1970s. The language was formalized in 1988 by the American National Standard Institute. The Unix OS was totally written in C. Today, C is the most widely used and popular system programming language. Most of the state-of-the-art software have been implemented using C. Today's most popular Linux OS and RDBMS MySQL have been written C. Why we use C? C was initially used for system development work, particularly the programs that make up the operating system. C was adopted as a system development language because it produces code that runs nearly as fast as code written in assembly language. Some examples of the use of C might be operating system, language compilers, assemblers, stack editor, print spoolers, network drivers, modern programs, database, language interpreters, utilities. Program structures. A C program basically consists of the following parts: processor commands, functions, variables, statements, and expressions, comments. Let us take a look at the various parts of above programs. Next topic is how C compilers works. The compilation process in C transforms a human-readable code into a machine-readable format. For C programming language, it happens before a program starts executing to check the syntax and the semantics of the code. The compilation process in C involves 4 steps: pre-processing, compiling, assembling, and linking. Then we run the obtained executable file to get an output on the screen. What is compilation? Before diving into the traditional definition of compilation, let us consider an example where there is a person A who speaks Hindi and person A wants to talk to person B who only knows English language. So now either of them requires a translator to translate their words to communicate with each other. This process is known as transactions this processor is known as translation, or in terms of programming it is known as compilation process. The compilation process in C is converting an understandable human code into a machine understandable code and checking the syntax and semantics of the code to determine any syntax error or warnings present in our C program. Suppose we want to execute our C program written in an IDE. In that case, it has to go through several phases of compilation to become an executable file that a machine can understand. Compilation process in C involves 4 steps: processing, compiling, assembling, and linking. Pre-processing. Pre-processing is the first step in the compilation process in C performed using the preprocessor tool. All the statements starting with the hash symbol in a program are processed by the preprocessor, and it converts our program files into an intermediate file with no hash statements under following pre-processing task as tasks are performed. First step, comments removal. Comments is Comments in a C program are used to give a general idea about particular statement or part of code. Actually, comments are the part of code that is removed during the compilation process by the preprocessor, as they are not particular use for a machine. The comments in the below program will be removed from the program when the processing phase is complete. Second step, macros expression. Macros are same constant value or expression defined using the hash defined directives in C language. A macro call leads to the macro expressions. The preprocessor creates an intermediate file where some pre-written assembly level instructions replace the defined expressions or constants to differentiate between the original instructions and the assembly instructions resulting from the macros expression. A plus sign is added to every macros expand statements. Thank you. So let's third step. It's file inclusion. File inclusion in C language is the addition of another files containing some pre-written code into our C program during the pre-processing. It is done using in hash include directory. File inclusion during pre-processing causes the entire content of file name to be added to the source code, replacing to directory, creating a new intermediate file. Example, if we have to use basic input output function like a print and scanf in our C program, we have to include a predefined standard input output header. Fourth step, conditional compilation. Conditional compilation is running or avoiding a block of code after checking if a macro is defining or not. The processor replaces all the conditional compilation directive with some predefined assembly code and pass a newly expanded file to the compiler. Conditional compilation can be performed using commands like hash ifdef, hash ndif, hash ifndef, hash if, hash else, and hash elsif in a C program. So the next step is compiling. Compiling phases in C uses an inbuilt compiler software to convert the intermediate file into an assembly file. Having assembly level instructions to boost the performance of the program, C compiler translates the intermediate file to make assembly file. Assembly code is a simple English type language used to write low-level instructions. The whole program code is parsed by the compiler software in one go, and it tells us about any syntax error or warnings present in the source code through the terminal window. An assembly language is a type of low-level programming language that is intended to communicate directly with a computer's hardware. Unlike machine language, which consists of binary and hexadecimal characters, assembly languages are designed to be readable by humans. Third steps: assembly. Assembly level code is converted into a machine understandable code using an assembler. Assembler is a pre-written program that translates assembly code into machine code. It takes basic instructions from an assembly code file and converts them into binary hexadecimal code specific to the machine type known as the object code. The file generated has the same name as the assembly file and is known as an object file with an extensions of object in DOS and .o in Unix OS. The below image shows an example of how the assembly phase works. An assembly file's area.s is translated to an object file area.o, having the same name but different extensions. Linking. Linking is a process of including the library files into our program. Library files are some predefined files that contain the definition of the functions in the machine language, and these files have an extensions of .library. Some unknown statements are written in the object file that our operating system can't understand. You can understand this as a book having some words that you don't know, and you will use a dictionary to find the meaning of those words. Similarly, we use library files to give meaning to some unknown statements from our objects file. The linking process generates an executable file with an extension of .exe in DOS and .out in Unix OS. The below image shows an example of how the linking phases work, and we have an object file having machine level code. It is a pass through the linker which links the library files with the object file to generate an executable file. Conclusion. Compilation process in C is also known as the process of converting human understandable code into a machine understandable code. Compilation process in C involves 4 steps: pre-processing, compiling, assembling, and linking. The preprocessor tool helps in comments removal, macro expressions, file inclusion, and conditional compilation. These commands are executed in the first step of the compilation process. Compiler software helps boost the program's performance and translates the intermediate file to an assembly file. Assembler helps convert the assembly file into an object file containing machine level code. Linker is used for linking the library file with the object file. It is the final steps in compilation to generate an executable file. Thank you. बस So the next topic is storage classes. A storage class defines the scope and lifetime of variables and or functions within a C program. They precede the types that the modify. We have four different storage classes in C program. First auto, second register, third static, fourth external. First type is the auto storage class. In C programming, the storage class specifier is used to declare variables with automatic storage duration. It is the default storage class for local variable within a block or function. While explicitly using is optional since it is the default. It can be used explicitly indicated the intent of a variable. Here are the key characteristics of the storage class. Automatic storage duration. Variable declared with the storage class have automatic storage duration. It means that the variables are created when the block in which they are declared is the entered and destroyed when the block is executed. In the case of local variables within a function, they are created each time the function is called and destroyed when the function exists. Block scope. Variable declared with have block scope, meaning they are only accessible within the block where they are declared. They are not visible outside in the block scope. They are not visible outside the block in which they are defined. This is the default behavior for local variables. Initialized variables. If an variable is declared without an initialization, its initial values is indeterminate and depends on the state of memory at the time. It is generally good practice to initialize variable before using them to avoid defined behavior. Implicit keyword. The storage class is the default, so it is not necessary to explicitly use the keyword when declaring local variables. Variables declared within a block or functions without any storage classes specifier are treated as variables by default. Second types of the register storage class. In C programming, the storage class specifier is used to suggest the compiler to store a local variable in a CPU's register for faster access. It is a hint to the compiler indicating the variable will be heavily used and that accessing it from a register would improve performance. However, it's important to note that the specifier is merely a suggestion to the compiler and the compiler has the final authority to decide whether to store the variable in a register or in memory. In modern compilers, register allocation is often done automatically without the need for explicit use of the keyword. Here are a few key points to understand about the register storage class. Faster access. By using the registered keyword, you suggest to the compiler that a particular variable should be stored in CPU register instead of memory. Register access is faster than memory access, so this suggestion aims to improve the performance of accessing the variable. Compiler discretion. The decision to allocate a variable in a register is ultimately up to the compiler. The compiler takes into account factors such as the register availability, the number of variables, and optimization goals. The compiler may choose not to allocate a variable in a register even if it is declared with the register specifier. Limited use. The use of the register specifier is limited to local variables declared within a block or function. It cannot be used with global variables or functions parameters. No address access. Variables declared within register specifiers cannot be accessed using the address of operators. Since registers don't have address, taking the address of a register variables is not allowed. Therefore, you cannot have a pointer to a register variable. Optional. Similar to the auto storage class, the use of the register keyword to optional. Compilers are generally capable of automatically optimizing register allocation without explicit use of the register keywords. What is register? In computer architecture, a register is a small storage location within the central processing unit of a computer. It is used to store and quickly access data and instructions that are needed by the CPU during its execution of the programs. Registers are the fastest types of storage in a computer system, typically built directly into the CPU itself. Thank you. Third type is the static storage class. In C programming, the static storage class specifier is used to control the lifetime and visibility of variables and functions within a particular scope. It is a storage class that provides a different sets of properties compared to other storage classes like auto and extern. When static is used with variables, it affects the lifetime of the variable and also changes the scope of the variable when used within a function. When used with functions, it affects the visibility to the function. Here are the key characteristics of the static storage class. Lifetime of variables. When static is used with a local variable inside a function, it changes the lifetime to the variables. Normally, local variables have automatic storage duration, meaning they are created and destroyed each time the function is called. However, when a variable is declared as static, its lifetime extends for the entire duration of the program. The variable is initialized only once and its value is retained between function calls. Scope of variables. When static is used with a local variable inside a function, it changes the scope of the variable. Normally, local variables have block scope, meaning they are only accessible within the block where they are declared. However, when a variable is declared as static, its scope becomes limited to the functions where it is defined, but its value persists across multiple function calls. Visibility of functions. When static is used with a function declaration, it limits the visibility of the function to the current translation unit. A translation unit is typically a source file along with the include headers. Functions declared as static can only be called from within the same source file where they are defined. They are not accessible from other source files during the linking process. Fourth, internal linkage. When static is used with global variable or functions, it gives the internal linkage. Internal linkage means that the variables or function is only accessible within the same translation unit. It cannot be accessed from other source files even if they include the same header files. Initialization. Static variables are initialization only once at program startup. If an initialize value is specified, it is assigned to the variable during the first execution of the function. Subsequent calls to the function will retain the modified value the static variables. Fourth type is the external storage class. In C program, the external storage class specifier is used to declare a variable or a function that is defined in other source file or module. It is used to provide a reference to an identifier that the defined elsewhere, allowing the current source file to access and use that identifier. When you declare a variable or function as an external, it means that the actual defining of that identifier is located in a different source file, and the linker will resolve the reference at the linking stage. Here are the few key points to understand about the external storage class. Declaration. The use an external variable of function in a source file. You need to declare it as an external in that file. This declaration tells the compiler that the identifier is defined elsewhere and will be linked later. No memory allocation. The external declaration does not allocate any memory for the identifier. It only informs the compiler about the existence and type of the identifier. The memory for the identifier is allocated in the source file where it is defined. Single definition rule. The external declaration helps enforce the single definition rule, which states that a variable or function can have only one definition in the entire program. By using external, you can have multiple references to the same identifier without violating this rule. Global scope. When you declare a variable or function as external, it has a global scope within the current source file. It means that you can access the identifier from any functions within that file. Definition is definition in another file. The actual definition of the external identifier must be present in another source file. This file could be a separate module or part of library. During the linking process, the linker resolves the references and links the declaration with the corresponding definition. Overall, the external storage class specifier is a powerful tool for modular programming and allows you to use variables and functions defined in another parts of your program. So next topic is operators. Operator is four types. First of type operator is arithmetic operators. Second type is logical operators. Third type is assignment operators. And fourth types is bitwise operators. Fifth types of relational operators. Sixth types of MISC operators. We use four types operators, in this arithmetic operator, logical operator, relational operator, and so these four. In arithmetic operators like addition, subtract, multiply, divide, module, plus, double plus, or double minus. In relational operator is double equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. In logical operators like and, or not. So in assignment operators like equal to, plus equal to, minus equal to, multiply equal to, module equal to, divide equal to, etc. Operators, why we use operators? We use operators like operation on two values, like some two values addition, two values subtract, multiply, or divide. In uses of arithmetic operators. And logical operators like two values, we use a comparison of two values, like greater than of two values, less than of two values, like etc. So guys, next topic is scope rules. A scope in any programming is a region of the program where a defined variable can have its existence, and beyond that variable it cannot be accessed. There are three places where variable can be declared in C programming language: inside a function or a block, which is called local variables; outside of all functions, which is called global variables. In the definition of functions, parameters which are called formal parameters. Let us understand what are local and global variables. Local variables that are declared inside a function or block are called local variables. They can be used only by statements that are inside that function or block of code. Local variables are not known to functions outside their own. The following example show how local variables are used. Here all the variables a, b and c are local to main function. Second, global variable. Global variables are defined outside a function, usually on top of the program. Global variables hold their values throughout the lifetime of your program, and they can be accessed inside any of the functions defined for the program. A global variable can be accessed by any function. That is, a global variable is available for us throughout your entire program after its declaration. The following programs show how global variables are used in program. So guys, enough for today. Tomorrow on next session. Thank you.